रेडी। आप कुछ वर्ड देख लेंगे पहले। लिखो पहले। ऑफ कोर्स, ऑफ इट, ऑफ हिम, ऑफ whom, of his own, of some, of the case, of this case, of this class, of this country, of the country, of the committee, of the government, of this kind, of this department, of this matter, of this month, of those who are, of those who have, of which, of us, of your letter, of your department, of your mother, of your sister, of you, of your own, of her, of their own. आप ऑफ का ग्राम लोग यूज करते हो। लाइन से ऊपर बनाएंगे। क्या वर्ड था पहला? ऑफ, फिर ऑफ में कोर्स, ऑफ इट लाइन को टच कर देंगे, ऑफ इट, ऑफ हिम, हिम में ऊपर डॉट लगा देते हैं, ऑफ हुम डैश लगा देंगे, और क्या था? ऑफ हिज ऑन, ऑफ हिज ऑन एन लगाएंगे, ऑफ सम, ऑफ द केस, केस लगा देंगे, ऑफ द क्लास, ऑफ दिस क्लास, ऑफ दिस केस, डबलिंग कर देंगे केन की, या पुराने तरीके से बना सकते हो, गैप कर देंगे, ऑफ द, क्या था इसके अंदर? कमिटी। उसके अलावा ऑफ द गवर्नमेंट था, कंट्री तो हो या नहीं? ऑफ द कंट्री, सेम पैटर्न पे इसमें कंट्री लगा देंगे, ऑफ द केन की डबलिंग कर देंगे, और ऑफ दिस काइंड, अलग से डिपार्टमेंट के लिए अलग से लगा देंगे डी को, ऑफ दिस एम की डबलिंग कर देंगे, इट लगा देंगे, और ऑफ दोज हु आर, ऑफ दोज लाइन से ऊपर आएगा, फिर हु आएगा, फिर आर लग जाएगा, ऑफ दोज हु आर, हैव का हु लग जाएगा सेम पैटर्न पे यहीं पे, ऑफ दोज हु हैव, ऑफ विच लाइन पे बनता है, ऑफ ऊपर उठेगा, विच लाइन को टच कर देगा, ऑफ विच, उसका सर्कल लगा दो, ऑफ योर की लेटर की डबलिंग कर देंगे, ऑफ बनाएंगे, योर एल की डबलिंग कर दो, ऑफ योर लेटर, डी से काट देंगे, एम की डबलिंग कर देंगे मदर के लिए, एस की डबलिंग कर देंगे सिस्टर के लिए, एस का सर्कल सिस्टर हो जाएगा, यू का डिप्थोंग लग, यू लग गया, ऑफ यू, और ऑफ योर ऑन, इसमें एन का हुक लगेगा, ऑफ योर ऑन, ऑफ हर का डाउनवर्ड आर, ये ऑफ हो गया, एस का टिक लगा देंगे, और डाउनवर्ड आर, ऑफ हर, डबलिंग नहीं, देयर का तो सीधा लग जाएगा इसमें हुक के साथ, एन का उक लगा देंगे, ऑफ देयर ऑन, एन का उक लग जाएगा। लिखो क्विकली, फिर से लिखो, फिर मैं डिक्टेशन लगा रहा हूँ। ऑफ कोर्स, ऑफ इट, ऑफ हिम, ऑफ whom, of his own, of some, of the case, of this case, of this class, of this country, of the country, of the committee, of the government, of this kind, of this department, of this matter, of this month, of those who are, of those who have, of which, of us, of your letter, of your department, of your mother, of your sister, of you, of your own, of her, of their own। 100 के आसपास लिखेंगे आप डिक्टेशन पहली। जो अभी 100 पे नहीं लिख पाते उनका ऑब्जेक्टिव भी ये है कि वो साथ साथ डिक्टेशन लिखते रहे आखिर तक का, वो पेंसिल को रोक कर नहीं बैठेंगे। जो वर्ड आप चाहते हैं वो बनाने की कोशिश करना, और जो 90 के आसपास लिखते हैं उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव ये है कि वो मैक्सिमम वर्ड बनाने की कोशिश करे ताकि कम से कम वर्ड छूटे उसके अंदर। रेडी? Start it. Mr. Deputy Speaker, sir, may I, with your permission, intervene and say a few words in regard to the various matters that have been discussed. My colleague, the Finance Minister, who is in charge of this particular budget, will no doubt deal with the specific matters that have been raised in the course of this debate. I need hardly remind the House of the fact that although this budget is the individual responsibility of the Finance Minister, it is also the responsibility of the entire government, and as Prime Minister, I am entirely responsible for it as well as any other member of the government. This budget was placed before the House after the usual consideration by the government, and the latter is completely committed to it. That does not mean that we are not willing to consider any new proposals. We certainly are, so long as the basic structure of the budget is not affected. My friend, the Honorable Professor Saha, pointed out various difficulties in the way of a debate here and in the way of consideration of the budget proposals. He pointed out how little could be done in the allotted time. I am in complete agreement with him in this matter. If there are any practical proposals which would enable us to give more time for the consideration of these problems, either formally or informally, I am quite sure that the Finance Minister will gladly consider them. The real difficulty is, however, more basic, and it is this: the kind of problems which the government has to face now is so vast and intricate that it is impossible for any democratic parliamentary assembly to give enough time for its consideration. It is just a question of time. This is not a new difficulty. I remember that long debates on this subject took place in a country like the United Kingdom, where they found that they could not get along with what is really the 19th century procedure in this 20th century of continuous crisis, social problems and international problems. So even parliamentary procedure in the United Kingdom has gradually changed, and many matters are left more to the committees than to the House itself. Usually, a principle is decided by the House and its working out is left to committees. The House cannot find time to consider everything. That is a difficulty inherent in the situation. If we can find a remedy for it, it will not only be good for us, but maybe we will be setting an example for other democratically inclined countries who are seeking such remedies. In spite of the fact that Parliament is in continuous session, it is not able to find time to consider in detail all the important matters that come up. We have in fact much less time because we are not in continuous session. I suppose our sessions will inevitably become longer and longer so as to enable us to deal with more and more problems and have more and more discussions. Anyhow, I have stated what the difficulty is at present. Though I am in sympathy with what Professor Saha said, I have no easy remedy for that difficulty except to say that we are perfectly prepared to consider, together with the honorable members of the House, any ideas or suggestions about how to give greater facilities for more intensive discussion of any great problem. An honorable member referred to the budget speech as being directly or indirectly a survey of all manner of problems, domestic, international, economic, foreign, etc. The House can hardly expect the Finance Minister's budget speech to be a survey of all these tremendous problems, although they have no doubt some bearing on the budget. The world is becoming far too intricate and difficult for us to be able to keep the full picture in view always. As I listened to the honorable member who spoke just now, I was wondering whether we had the larger picture in mind or were getting lost in few minor and secondary matters. For instance, having referred to the government's extravagance, the honorable member went on to say certain things in regard to our bringing forward a bill for giving a pension to the president. That signified to me an approach which I would call 100% wrong. Besides, I should have thought that the subject of pension for the president was hardly a matter for debate or reference here. I say, even if this country is starving, even then you have to provide for our president. The honorable member perhaps prefers a starvation for the president and himself. I certainly will not stand in his way, but we are considering graver matters than this, and the fact that such points are raised shows that we are not looking at the problems. We do not seem to be thinking of the vast problems that we are faced with and have to wrestle with the vast problem of the country's economy in relation to the world's economy. The honorable member who has just spoken has dealt with certain wider questions which appear to me to go beyond the scope of the present bill, which is a short bill before the House. The House will remember that when this commission was appointed, they were entrusted with two tasks. One was to examine the whole income tax procedure and suggest ways and means to avoid or prevent evasion in future. Secondly, they were to examine specific cases which were referred to them. What the honorable member has been saying really refers to the first part, that is the wider question. As has been stated, I believe in the statement of objects and reasons we have received from the Income Tax Investigation Commission recommendations on this wider issue, and they will no doubt come up before the House in the form of a measure, and the House will then have full opportunities of considering them, adding to them or altering them, so that we might evolve a proper procedure. The whole question before the House now is what to do with the inquiry part of the Commission's work with regard to certain cases that were referred to them. Now, I would beg the House to remember that this is not a roving inquiry. 100 की स्पीड है, 1060 के आसपास वर्ड है, 50 प्लस, फ्लक्चुएशंस ना के बराबर है, 80 पे लिखेंगे. रेडी? Start it. Mr. Vice Chairman, sir, the amending bill is to amend the Unit Trust of India Act 1963 and the Indian Trusts Act 1882. So far as I have gone through the bill, I have come to the understanding that this bill has been brought before this House to give some incentive to big money holders and to those wealthy persons who are paying wealth tax. Sir, the Unit Trust of India was established in 1964 to mobilize resources with a capital of rupees 5 crores. By this amendment, the government's policy again reveals that the Unit Trust of India is an institution for big money holders only. Today, there are commercial banks, the scheduled nationalized banks, and other financial institutions who also mobilize public savings and give higher rate of interest and relief than the ordinary bank rate of not more than 8% or 10%. After imposition of restriction on dividend, the situation has come up in such a way that the unit trust has further deteriorated. The minister in her statement said that during the last few months there was a rising trend of redemption of units issued by the UTI, causing serious impact on the liquidity of the UTI. In an institution which is meant to mobilize part of savings from the people, people of all categories were on the verge of ruin. So the government had to come up with an ordinance to salvage an institution like the UTI. The UTI faced this sort of situation, and only to salvage this institution, the government promulgated the ordinance. The government promulgated the ordinance only to save this institution, only to help the wealthy persons and big industrialists so that they can invest their money in the UTI, and again that money will go to them for further investment in their own industry to breed further money. Sir, in the meantime, when the dividend restriction was imposed and the UTI was feeling helpless, people also lost faith in this institution which is meant for mobilizing public savings and public resources. Sir, the scheme of unit trust, which benefits not all classes of people, excepting the small and the middle classes, only the big people in this country, is the result and creation of the fiscal and economic policy of this government. So, again, in the case of the Unit Trust of India, the government has come up to protect this institution, not to help the development of industry, not to help the expansion of industry, not to help the poor investors, the middle investor, the small investor, the small money holder, but only the big money holders who are to pay income tax on more than rupees 5,000 from UTI, and those who pay wealth tax more than rupees 25,000. Sir, this is the situation. Now, the government has come up again to help this class of big houses by this Unit Trust of India. So, the bill cannot check the resale if the rate of interest given is higher. It can check to a certain degree, but it cannot check completely the resale of the units, because vast numbers, 70 to 80% of the people are there who want higher interest. Accepting these big monopoly houses, big industrial houses, big money holders, there are middle class people who are 20 to 30% of them who can invest in the unit trust, but these people are exempted from the relief provided by the amending bill. Sir, the bill is meant for mobilizing resources from big money holders who will get benefit and relief of exemptions from income tax and wealth tax to the extent of units worth rupees 2,35,000 higher than what is provided by the present act. By this measure, sir, some black money from the big houses may get whitened through this institution of UTI. Again, when credit and financial assistance will be given by this UTI, I apprehend that so far as the government economic policy goes, this money will go to those persons who breed black money. So the money collected through the unit trust of India is nothing but black to black money getting whitened out of black and again going to the industrialists, big houses for getting blackened. This is the relation. How to get rid of this vicious circle? I want the minister to state what provisions the government will make in this institution of UTI so that the middle level people, small money holders can get relief and have incentive to invest their money in the UTI so that development and expansion of industry can happen in the small scale sector and priority sector. All these are the questions. So, this bill is only to salvage the UTI from its ruin. 80 की स्पीड है, फ्लक्चुएशन ना के बराबर है, इसके अंदर भी 800 के आसपास वर्ड है और ये जो दोनों कंटेंट है आप टाइप करेंगे इस वाले URL पे जाके 3pprogram.steno18.in पे SSC C D test 35 YouTube @100 विद कोमा है और @80 विद कोमा है। अगर कोई भी अच्छी लिखी तो डिक्टेशन रूम में बैठेंगे, मैं डिक्टेशन लगाऊंगा आपके हिसाब से।